Good morning, I'm Craig DeGrelli. It's Thursday, April 24th, 2025, and these are your Unbiased Updates. Russia unleashes deadly attacks on Ukraine as President Trump takes to his Truth Social to proclaim he's trying to get both countries out of this total mess. The key point of contention now between Trump and Ukrainian leader Zelensky. And so many mourners. The procession at St. Peter's Basilica to see the Pope lying in state, and what Vatican officials did to make sure everybody who is attending has a chance to pay their respects.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world, these are today's Unbiased Updates.
New this morning, Russia launched one of its most devastating bombardments overnight on Ukraine's major cities since the war began more than 3 years ago. The move coming just hours after peace negotiations between the two countries appeared to stall, with President Trump accusing Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky of drawing out the, quote, killing field by refusing to acknowledge that Russia now controls Crimea. President Trump saying there's nothing to talk about here. Nobody is asking Zelensky to recognize Crimea as Russian territory.
I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far it's been harder, but that's okay.
Zelensky has said multiple times that recognizing the occupied territory, Crimea, as Russian is a non-starter for his country. This morning, the Ukrainian leader announced he's cutting short his trip to South Africa, where he hoped to drum up support for the efforts to end the war because of the deadly Russian strikes against various cities, including the capital, Kyiv. At least 9 people are confirmed dead there and dozens more injured as rescue operations are still ongoing to try to find bodies under the rubble. The Kyiv City Military Administration said on its Telegram channel that Russia struck with at least 45 drones, as well as ballistic missiles. Ukrainian officials say Russia also targeted several areas outside Kyiv, including Kharkiv, Sumy, and Zaporizhia. 12 U.S. states are now suing the Trump administration, challenging the legality of the president's global tariffs. They argue his agenda unlawfully undermines Congress's constitutional authority to regulate foreign commerce. The legal challenge, led by Arizona and Oregon, seeks to halt the enforcement of the tariffs, which President Trump invoked under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. That law grants presidents the power to oversee trade if the United States is in a state of emergency. The states listed in the lawsuit say Congress never intended the law to be used for tariffs, and President Trump does not have the power to impose them. This comes as the president talked about making individual trade deals with countries and what will happen if there is a deadlock.
And in the end, I think what's going to happen is we're going to have great deals. And by the way, if we don't have a deal with a company or a country, we're going to set the tariff. We just set the tariff. It's something that we think that will happen, I'd say, over the next couple of weeks. Wouldn't you say? I think so. Over the next 2-3 weeks.
On April 9th, the president paused his so-called reciprocal tariffs, which levied a baseline 10% import tax against more than 180 countries worldwide, though some face tariffs much higher than that. That reprieve is supposed to last 90 days, giving other countries time to negotiate with the Trump administration. So far, White House officials say 90 countries have contacted the Trump administration to try to negotiate a deal. A federal judge has temporarily halted her order requiring the Trump administration to provide information on its efforts to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the U.S. from El Salvador. An administrative error led the government to deport Garcia in March. But since then, the White House has been adamant that he is a member of the gang MS-13 and he's not coming back. The judge granted a 7-day stay request from the Trump administration, giving the government more time to provide testimony and documents involving plans to retrieve Abrego Garcia. However, the administration must still provide daily updates on its progress. Meantime, a separate federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to facilitate the return of a 20-year-old Venezuelan man deported to El Salvador after the judge found his removal violated a previous court settlement. U.S. District Judge Stephanie Gallagher, who was appointed by President Trump during his first term, also ordered the government not to remove other people covered by the settlement. The class action case from 2019 was filed on behalf of individuals who entered the United States as unaccompanied minors and later sought asylum. In Vatican City, mourners from across the world continue to arrive and process past the wooden coffin containing the body of Pope Francis at St. Peter's Basilica. There have been so many people paying their respects to the late Holy Father that the Vatican kept the doors of the Basilica open all night. It closed for just 1 hour for cleaning. The head of the Catholic Church died Monday after suffering a stroke that led to heart failure. He was 88. More than 20,000 people paid tribute to the Pope in the first 8.5 hours of viewing on Wednesday. Some of the mourners were in Rome with either church groups or tour groups to celebrate Easter last weekend and have stayed. In some cases, people waited up to 4 hours to get in. A funeral mass will be held this Saturday in St. Peter's Square. The Pope will be buried within the St. Mary Major Basilica as he wanted. Elsewhere, tensions are escalating as New Delhi blames Islamabad for a deadly attack that killed 26 people, mostly tourists, in disputed Kashmir. India now mounting a new diplomatic offensive against Pakistan, saying Islamabad is supporting cross-border terrorism. Pakistan has denied responsibility for the attack, and a previously unknown militant group calling itself Kashmir Resistance has now claimed responsibility. Wednesday night, India said a number of Pakistani diplomats were asked to leave New Delhi, and Indian diplomats were recalled from Pakistan. India is also closing the only functional land border crossing between the countries and suspending a water-sharing treaty which has survived 2 wars and a major border skirmish between the countries since it was put in place in 1960. On Thursday, India Prime Minister Narendra Modi called for an all-party meeting with other leaders to brief them on the government's response to the attack. Meanwhile, Islamabad said it would respond to India's actions and convene its National Security Committee, which is composed of senior civil and military officials. Finally this morning, another sign of the booming growth of women's sports. The Professional Women's Hockey League introducing its newest franchise. Straight Arrow News sports reporter Chris Francis has details on the new team and what this means for the bigger picture of women's sports as a whole.
And today, we are so excited because right here in Vancouver, we got a team!
That's 9-year-old hockey player Sydney Milden getting the announcement started in style with her youth team. The PWHL, which is wrapping up its 2nd season, has teams in Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, New York, Minnesota, and Boston. The league's 7th team doesn't have a name yet, but VP of Hockey Operations Jana Hefford, who won a gold medal at the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver, says it's about growing the game.
With this team comes more opportunity for the best women's hockey players in the world to continue competing in one league. The talent pool has never been deeper, and with a strong 2025 draft class ahead, we're pleased that even more women are going to be able to play at the professional level.
Reports have expansion candidate Seattle joining Vancouver starting this fall, the league's 3rd season. Both cities were attendance leaders during the PWHL's takeover tour of venues across the country, proof that fans have an appetite for more women's events.
This is an exciting moment. It marks the start of something bigger than just hockey. It's about creating a new chapter in professional women's sports, not just hockey specific. It's inspiring the next generation to continue playing, to drive for something.
The PWHL is following a growing trend. The WNBA's Golden State Valkyries will begin their 1st season in May, and the league will expand with 2 more teams, Toronto and Portland, in 2026. Why? The numbers speak for themselves. In 2024, the WNBA delivered its most watched regular season in 24 years, with more than 54 million unique viewers, and had its highest total attendance in 22 years, over 2.3 million fans, up 48% from 2023. The NWSL also has very ambitious plans for expansion, according to Commissioner Jessica Berman. There are currently 16 teams, with Boston and Denver starting play in 2026, and the plan is to become a 30-team league in the future. Credit stars like Megan Rapinoe, Caitlin Clark, and those Olympic hockey gold medalists for raising the bar to a level that attracts more television money and exposure to the sports they play. That is attractive to investors, which in turn provides more opportunities to the next generation of young girls who want to be professional athletes. For Straight Arrow News, I'm Chris Francis.
You know, here in Omaha, we have like 6 hockey rinks within 15 minutes of each other, and there are more and more women's leagues forming. It's really great to see. Pretty cool. Those are your unbiased updates for this Thursday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great day.